This is instruction for Workbook 9.4, Monday's assignment. The first part of the workbook page, I have changed the directions for, and I feel certain that I changed them on your paper as well. All I want you to do is multiply. You don't have to, I think I crossed everything else out, but for the first 8 problems, all you're going to do is multiply. And the original instructions had you to estimate and then record the product. And I'm just going to show you why it told you to do that, even though I'm not expecting you to do that on your paper, but it does make a lot of sense. So if you had 42 times 4 and you were estimating, you would estimate it to 40 times 4. And then you know that if we had over here, if we had 40 times 4 and we were doing the find the math fact, add the 0, that 40 times 4, whoops, I'm just messing this all up, that 40 times 4 would be 4 times 4 is 16, add the 0 would be 160. So they want you to see that when you multiply, this is going to be somewhere close to 160. And if you get some number that's way off, then you should know, somewhere I made a mistake. Now, that I'm not asking you to do that. I'm showing you the logic behind the original directions. So we're just going to multiply this. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 4 is 16. So that looks like this. And our final answer is 168. Now, when we had done this estimation problem, we ended up with 160, and 168 is pretty close to 160. If we had ended up with a number like this, 1,680, we could say, that's not close at all to 160. That's way too much. So that's just one of those things that allows you to say, okay, I'm in the ballpark. So over here, we're just going to strictly multiply. I know this is a review, but reviews are always good. So we have 3 times 32 times 2, 32 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. So our final answer is 62. I need to turn off the underline button. All right. Now, if we had estimated this, we would estimate this to be 30, and 2 times 30 would be 60, and 62 is close to 60. So we are in the ballpark. All right, we're strictly going to multiply here, starting with the ones column. So we have, we have 7 times 3, and 7 times 3 is 21. So we're going to write down the 2. We're going to carry the 1 in the tens place. I'm sorry, we're going to write down the 1. We're going to carry the 2's into the tens place. Then we're going to say 7 times 6 is, I hope you said 42, 43, 44. We're adding those. So we are going to write a 4 in the tens place, and we're going to carry the other 4 up here in the hundreds place. And then we're going to say 7 times 5. What is that? 7 times 5 is 35 plus 4 is 39. So we're going to write it like that. And then because I'm typing this, I have to get it all in order. So 3,941. The very last thing I do is add my comma. And remember, when you're adding commas, you start at the ones place and go over 3 places before you add your comma. You always start on the far right side of the number when adding commas. All right, so you also have some input-output charts on this paper, and one of the input-output charts has to do with quarts and cups. So if you are familiar with working in the kitchen, you probably have an idea about quarts and cups. But if you are not, here's a little refresher course, or maybe a little introduction course. So when you're working in the kitchen, this is a cup. Probably most of you have seen a measuring cup. Typically, a regular measuring cup would have 8 ounces and would hold 1 cup. Sometimes there are bigger measuring cups that hold hold 2 or 3 cups, but a cup is an official measurement that means 8 ounces. So 4 cups equals 1 quart. And this is a quart. So 4 cups equals 1 quart. So if you know that, you're in good shape. But if you don't, you can use your input-output chart to help you figure that out. So since we're working on multiplication, chances are our rule is going to have to do with multiplication. So if you start with 1 and you end up with 4, what did you do? You could say, oh, I added 3. So go over here and say 7 plus 3, and that's not going to give us 28. Plus, I just said, since we're doing multiplication, chances are we're going to multiply. So if I start off with 1 and I end up with 4, I multiplied. What did I multiply by? 1 times what will give me 4? 1 times 4. So what about 7 times 4? 7 times 4 is what? Voila, it is 28. So our rule here is going to be times 4. So 7 times 4 is 28. 8 times 4 is 32. And 9 times 4 is 36. So you're going to have a very similar input-output chart. I wanted to put this on here so you could see the visual of the cup equaling the quart. This is not the greatest visual because this cup looks as big as that quart, but you might go into your kitchen and get out a measuring cup and see how big it actually looks. All right, the next one has to do with yards and feet. And if you can picture in your mind a ruler, rulers are 1 foot long, and yardsticks are 3 feet long. So this has the number of yards and the number of feet. So if you have 6 yards, you're going to have 18 feet. If you have 7 yards, you're going to have 21 feet. So if we start with 6 and we end up with 18, what did we multiply by? I feel like you said 3. So what is 7 times 3? It's 21. And see how that works out with our picture here? What is 8 times 3? 8 times 3 is 24. And what is 9 times 3? 27. All right, so this is where you write your rule at. And one of the word problems has to do with time. And I wanted to do an example problem with you regarding time. So this is our sample problem. A soccer tournament started at 10:30 a.m. and ended at 3 p.m. How long did the tournament last? So 10:30 a.m. is 10:30 in the morning. This clock shows 10:30. The little hand is between the 10 and the 11. It's moving towards the 11, and the minute hand, or the big hand, is pointing to the 6. It's halfway around, so it's 30 minutes past the hour. So if you start at 10:30, we want to know how many hours and how many minutes did this tournament last. If we go 1 hour, that would be 11:30. So you can't see me, but I'm holding up one finger to remind me that that is 1 hour. So from 10:30 to 11:30 is 1 hour, 12:30 is 2 hours, 1:30 is 3 hours, 2:30 is 4 hours, 3:30 would be 5 hours, but that's too much because we did not go all the way up to 3:30. We just went to 3:10. So I'm going to write down 4 hours. And at 4 hours, we're at 2:30. So our little hand, our minute hand, our long hand will be here. And our hour hand is going to be here. So we're going to have to go from 2:30 all the way around here to 3:10. And as you recall, there's 5 minutes between numbers. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So that will give us 40 minutes. We have 4 hours from 10:30 to 2:30. And then we have 40 minutes from 2:30 to 3:10. So that's how I came up with 4 hours and 40 minutes.